Okay, it looks like it's 4 o'clock and we attendees are racking up here. So welcome everybody to the CPO Instructor Town Hall meeting. I am Jeannie Mendelson, Vice President of Education and Events for PHTA. I'm happy to be here. I've met a lot of you now for my almost 3 years here with the company, and I'm thrilled to be here at the kickoff of 2023. So we'll just go ahead and get started. First of all, just a reminder that instead of just one instructor update towards the end of the year, last year we started these town halls quarterly, and we'll keep doing that this year. We've gotten good feedback, but again, this is our meeting time together to update you on the PHTA side, hear through questions and other feedback, what's going on in your worlds, and to keep in touch throughout the year rather than just one time a month. I'm sorry, one time a year. And we also have the newsletter that continues, the monthly newsletter, as a way to keep in touch. So again, reach out to myself or Natalie or anyone on the CPO Advisory Council anytime during the year if you have something you want to hear about on one of these forums, or any questions after these forums. Should I say next slide? Okay, like I said, we're kicking off our town halls for 2023, but 2022 was an amazing year. You all, as an instructor pool, certified over 35,000 pool operators in the US. That's amazing, come a long way through the pandemic, so it's awesome. We retained 97% of our instructors. We authorized 45 new instructors, and probably most of you know, but we have a virtual instructor school in April, and then the live one was the first live one for a couple years, attached to the WAC conference in the fall. We had an awesome WAC in the fall in Texas. It was just, everybody was so happy to be in person, and those in attendance. The vibe was awesome. The education was awesome. The keynote speaker was fantastic. It was a great first in-person conference back after a couple years. And you'll hear a little more, and hopefully you all have heard of the instructor portal, but we're thrilled to say that 70% of our instructors have adopted the new online instructor portal. So good job on you, and hopefully it's making your life easier. And as we say during all of these meetings, thank you so much to all the volunteers and all the instructors who are awesome about giving feedback throughout the year. But the council is hard at work in tandem with PHTA staff throughout the year. And just a quick scorecard. The CPO handbook went through a complete review. It was completed early in January of 2022 and was used throughout the year to great feedback. We did have some updates that were made before reordering for 2023, and those will continue. The portal launch, as I just mentioned, 70% of you are using the portal, which is awesome. It's made your lives easier, hopefully. It's made staff lives easier. I think it's made our certifees lives easier because they're getting everything quicker. They're getting their certificates and their score results a lot faster. We rebranded the French manual, just completed in December, so that will start to go out as well, to be sent out, which is awesome. The PowerPoint updates, they were just completed in February, so you'll see those, and Zach might want to say more about that. I know that he spent a lot of time on those. CPO Advisory Council willingness to serve. We had some great applications, and we welcomed Andy Peterson, Chris Farlow, and Jonathan JB Smith to the council. So welcome to those three. This is still in our first 3 years of this CPO Advisory Council. So that cycle, you'll see every year a willingness to serve. So if you are interested, that goes out usually, I think in the early second quarter of the year. So you'll be seeing that, and then feel free to sign on and give your interest to serve on the council. Pool operator primer, again, I think that Zach is going to talk about this a little later because it's close, it's near and dear to his heart. But we are revamping for 2023 by the end of the year, the pool operator primer. We've been able to fix it. I think we're smoother sailing on the old product, if you will, but it will go through a complete overhaul with updated information and modules and resources. So the World Aquatic Health Conference, I think that you found out in the last newsletter that we will be co-locating this with the International Pool and Spa Show, which will be in Las Vegas, November 13th through 15th. The pre-conference events, which is the Instructor School and the CPO, would be November 10th through 12th, prior to the actual conference. Co-locating means that we will have tracks within the PSP Expo, same venue. Your registration will allow you to go to the International Expo exhibit hall. So you'll have access to all of those exhibitors and get to see the latest and greatest in the aquatics and pool and spa industry. Call for presentations, I think it's going out tomorrow. So please fill that out and plan to present. We're excited about this being a part of the Pool and Spa Expo, but also keeping the WAC identity and keeping the high level of education that you all are used to seeing at the World Aquatic Health Conference. And hopefully you've all seen that it's our 50th anniversary. You see the logo there is CPO, is the diamond that we have, as well as the 50th anniversary. I think in the newsletter we sent out the diamond with no words, and so this will go out with the recording. I think actually this updated, so it makes it kind of big. So I think the first thought was that it would be hard to put on your website or utilize, but this way you have a choice. You could use just the gold diamond depicting the 50th anniversary, or this one here with the words. So again, 50 years strong. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you for this long-standing, strong program that has helped save lives and elevate the pool and spa industry. It's an amazing program, a quality education, and the instructors deliver and just amazing education to this industry. And again, just to touch on, we will be celebrating, having an anniversary party, an anniversary lunch. There'll be activities at the booth. We'll have a center area during the show where you can make sure that you see your fellow instructors and aquatics peers that you would normally see at the World Aquatic Health Conference. And now I get to introduce Zach. Zach Skinner is the chair of the CPO Advisory Council, obviously a fellow instructor. Take it away, Zach.
Yeah, hi everybody. Good to be here meeting with you again. First off, to start the year off. Certainly can't have any of these meetings without throwing a little shout out to my fellow council members for all they do. A group of really hardworking people, so thank you to you, group of amazing workers. Also want to echo Jeannie's welcome to our 3 new council members. It'll be great to have some fresh faces and some new ideas in the group. Really looking forward to this next year. So welcome JB, Andy, and Chris. Next slide, please. So a little bit about our CPO PowerPoint slides. Jeannie touched on this, but these slides were reviewed by all the council members. We did this in small groups, did this last fall. They were reviewed by some other instructors as well out there in the field. All the updates were handed over to PHTA. PHTA spent a couple months making all the edits and the changes, And the new slides for the English Imperial and English Metric were actually just released and posted on the website about a week ago. So those are available for download for all you guys. Just a heads up, the current version, they don't have the slide transitions. And that is, we know that. A new set is going to be posted here in the next couple weeks that will have the transitions. PHTA, and I've heard this myself, but they get all kind of feedback from instructors. Some people love the transitions, some people really dislike them. So trying to accommodate everybody. So if you like those transitions, that slide deck will be posted on the website here in a couple weeks. As far as other languages, Spanish Imperial and Spanish Metric, they're both coming out, I think today, actually, or worst case, maybe tomorrow morning, first thing. And then French slides that accompany the French handbook that just got redone. It's in its final review stage. PHTA, I think, is going to be working with all of our Francophone instructors to update those materials here in the next few months. So French is on the way. Let's see here. I have been copied on a few emails from some of you guys, and you've shared a few typos in the brand new slides, some small errors. It's enough to make me want to pull my hair out because we went over those in great detail, but of course, there's just a lot of content. So anything you send us that you find, small typos, etc., we're certainly addressing. So we'll review all that information as it comes up. We'll fix the slides when they come in, if it's warranted to be something that needs to be fixed. And then that link on the website will actually be updated very regularly to always download kind of that most recent version of the slides. So we haven't gotten a ton of stuff, but a couple of emails have come in with, like I said, some typos. If you see that, or if you see one while you're teaching, please let us know. We definitely want to have those slides be perfect for all the people that are downloading them. Just a whole lot of content involved. So please continue to send PHTA any concerns with the slides so we can get them to that perfect point. Also on the slides, if you have a better photo for any of them, we're trying to get hip and update things as we go, of course. A photo that you have rights to, please feel free to share that photo with PHTA if you want to help out and update the pictures, and also maybe what slide you think it would go on or fit well on, and we can insert that into the slideshow too if deemed appropriate. But again, your feedback's critical. Let us know if you guys have any issues. Next slide. So Jeannie said this, and she was absolutely true. This is kind of near and dear to my heart, something I've been lobbying for a long time before this council even existed, honestly. But super excited about this next topic here. It's a huge undertaking, but one that I think it's desperately needed. It's going to update the CPO Fusion experience for all of our students. If you teach Fusion, this will benefit you and your students. So we've lobbied for PHTA to do just a complete overhaul of the CPO POP course. And the POP course, of course, is the POP course, of course, that's funny, is the online primer. It's that piece of electronic training that our Fusion students do. Luckily, PHTA agreed. They concurred that this is a priority for CPO this year. So they're spending some funding on this, and we're tearing into it with Justin's help. So just a little trip down memory lane. NSPF first created this thing, I don't know, probably 20 years ago or so. And the current version's probably been going for 10 years or so through the NSPF transition, et cetera. It's lived through a couple different software systems, and it's been kind of patched and duct taped along the way so it's correct, et cetera. But it's just time to kind of burn it down and start over. So that's what we're doing. I'm really excited for what this new online primer, the new POP, is going to look like. And again, if this is something that interests you, always looking for helpers. This shouldn't be my POP or the council's POP, it should be everybody's POP. I know a couple people out there have already expressed interest and they're actively helping us out. We're just now tearing into this, so it is going to be a little bit. It's going to be the majority of this year. But really hoping that this new POP that we put out is just going to be something that we can all really be proud of. So again, if you're interested in helping out, reach out to Natalie, and she can connect you to us, and we can start brainstorming ideas. Some of the things that we hope to address, just kind of off the top of my head, were things like making sure that the POP, all those modules that they have, make sure it mirrors the book to a greater degree. Right now, it just doesn't match our chapters at all, so it's kind of tough when you're helping a student through it. Also making sure we can update the POP more easily when standards and laws change. You guys all know the TDS situation with saturation index that changed a couple years ago. It was an incredible feat to try and update that POP. And if you've listened to it recently, you can tell that it's updated, but it's not as good as we think it should be. So hopefully making changes like that in the future will be a lot easier. Things like updating all the graphics and the pictures, making it easier to use for students, making it easier to access for the first time for a POP student, getting rid of some of the redundancies, stuff like that. So pretty excited about this. Would love some good helpers if anybody wants to jump in. And yeah, super excited. Next slide. Over to Natalie.
Thank you, Zach. So I'm Natalie Hood. Last time we were together, I was the Director of Instructor Relations. I am now the Director, excuse me, of Certification and Instructor Relations, and I'm really excited to see all of you at in November later on this year. I think this is a great opportunity for WAC and PSP Expo, and we have some really exciting things coming down for certification this year. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the CPO manual and shipping. And for the first quarter already, we received historical levels of orders. And while that's fantastic, with that, we look back on previous months and previous years and project sales and anticipate book orders. And we were doing smaller print runs to keep up with any mistakes, especially with that huge overhaul that the CPO Advisory Council did. And, for those that provided feedback, again, thank you. It was a huge overhaul. And so we wanted to do smaller print runs so that you weren't having to use outdated materials in the industry. And, what came with that was in January and part of early February, we saw, again, an enormous amount of orders come in. And while that's fantastic, and it's great that the program is really getting back out there since the pandemic, the downfall of that was, we just didn't have that many books prepared. We weren't ready. So if you did happen to place an order in the last few weeks and you're waiting for books, I do believe you've either heard from myself or from Ashley or one of the team members working with you on when you need those books. I can confirm that we just received 20,000 handbooks in the warehouse, and they are pulling those off the truck right now and preparing them for shipment for tomorrow. And so if you did, again, speak to Ashley or myself and you're like, hey, I really need these books, please rest assured that those books are going to get to you. And again, we appreciate your patience. This was not something that we had anticipated for. We always do have more than what we thought was enough manuals available if something like this was to happen. But again, this was a historical amount of orders that we received. But again, those orders will go out tomorrow. And with that, we do feel now that we are at a point where based on where the handbook, it's been out for about a year now, that we can start to do larger print runs. And so we've already been looking at, this 20,000 has been received. We've already looked at an additional 20,000 to ensure that this does not happen again. So again, for anyone that received a back order message or, any frustration, concern, your hair was falling out, anything of that nature, again, we do apologize for that and appreciate your patience with us. And, also, excuse me, the Perfect Bound, we have received a lot of really great feedback regarding this handbook. I had the book in front of me and I was kind of playing around with the pages and I was like, it does lay quite flat. And even when I went to ship handbooks to an instructor the other day, because he had an upcoming class, and I always tend to have handbooks on hand, don't tell anyone. But when I went to ship the books, I noticed that a box of 10 was normally about 17 pounds in previous years. And when I went to ship it, it was 15.1. So right there alone with the Perfect Bound, the shipping costs, as we had said, we anticipated would be lower. So again, we are excited about that. If you haven't already, please take a look at the PHTA website. We have added some updates that we hope will better support you and your customers. So now, I believe it's between the certification and the education events tab. There is now an instructor tab. Again, under there, you're going to find all your resources. They've kind of been moved around a little bit. So if you have any issues finding something or, town hall meetings, things of that nature, certainly reach out and let me know. You'll also notice on the PHTA website, there is now a Find a CPO class button. So if you go to the landing page right there, you shouldn't even really have to scroll down. It's right there in blue in the middle. When students go to PHTA, they're no longer having to search for the CPO certification. It's right there in front of them. And, you know, in working with the education profiles and adding, we've also added instructor manuals, administrative procedures, course submissions, instructor order forms, that's also been updated, branding guidelines, and so much more. And so if you haven't already had a chance, I would encourage you to go over there, because again, this is something that we're really trying to make it an easier flow and user access for you and for your customers. Again, you'll have easier access to the instructor portal. And with that, which again, more exciting updates, instructors that are authorized to teach the additional 4 education profiles. I believe most of you are already a CPI instructor, because that was one of the requirements when you took the instructor course. But if you are authorized, again, you can now post classes on the in the portal, and those are searchable by students. So the same way, and Justin, you can go to the next slide. The same way when you post a CPO class on the website, students can go to the website and it's right there immediately. Well, now for these additional 4 programs, that is also available, okay? And with that, you will, I'm hoping by end of this month, I have a few more kinks to work out with the developer, but you'll also be able to submit your student course submissions in the portal for these additional courses. And with that, we're really trying to do better in communicating to your students via email. And so while you wouldn't necessarily be proctoring the exam for these additional profiles, when you submit the roster to the portal, your student will receive an automatic congratulations. You've completed this instructor-led course. They'll receive a record of completion because they did sit with you during those hours. We do want to make sure that those hours are recognized, and if they need CEUs, they certainly can get those. But we're going to say, hey, you know, congratulations, and we'll provide them a link to apply for the exam. And Prometric is set up to support those exams, as well as send digital certificates once the student has passed the exam. Those digital certificates will be available. The link will be available for 3 years. Now, again, CPO is still 5 years, but it's following along the same path that CPO was. And something really exciting that's coming up in March is for these additional 4, wallet cards will now also be included. Digital and hard copies will be sent in March as well. So before, I believe just the certificate was being sent digitally, but now it will be sent digitally and then mailed at the end of the month, the same way that the CPO certificates are. And, you know, again, you know, Zach had said that we've received a lot of great feedback from you guys in regards to the portal, the handbook, and one thing that is coming very soon is a search feature in the portal. So I know a lot of the time students will sign up for exam, and then maybe they're not able to make it, or, you know, life happens. And then they follow up with you a week or so later and you're like, shoot, where did I put them in the portal? And so now you'll be able to search for that student and be able to move them accordingly. And, you know, you may be asking what is required to add these additional courses to your educational profile. Well, first of all, please reach out to me. I'd love to discuss this with you. I've received a lot of questions of, well, do I have to go through another instructor course? You do not. You've already went through the CPO instructor course. And again, most of you are already CPI certified. And so if you're not, and you want to, or if you want to do CST, CMS, or CHTT, what we ask of you is you'll purchase the course. Now, again, if that's something you're interested in, I urge you to let me know, because we have a special instructor-only discount for those courses, okay? So if you go on the website, you're going to see a member and a non-member price, but we have a better price for you, okay? So certainly reach out to me. After you complete the on-demand self-paced course, you would submit your application to take the exam either virtually or in an on-site testing center with Prometric. Now, if you happen to see that there is an upcoming show or event where there's an instructor-led course for one of these 4 education profiles, you are most certainly welcome to attend that and then apply for your exam after. So it doesn't have to just be by taking the online on-demand course. You can also visit an event or a show where one of these courses may be. be held. But then after you take the exam, you would follow up with me and we would set up next steps and what materials are available to support your efforts. And, you know, if you feel like this is something that you really want to pursue. And talking a little bit more about this. And so one thing that another difference with these 4 programs versus the CPO, as you remember, the pool operator primer used to be available to students. We pulled that away and added restrictions. Now where only CPO instructors can purchase the pool operator primer course. Students can purchase the CPI, CMS, CST, and CHTT on-demand course on PHTA, and there's a non-member and a member price for that. However, we are encouraging those that are currently and or are looking into becoming an instructor for one of these additional courses to advertise their price much higher, because while on-demand self-paces are great, having an instructor-led course, I mean, there's so many benefits. You have a professional right there in front of you that you can ask questions, you can reference back to them, and they can really help you meet those goals. And so, again, I would meet with you about pricing, and not only is there a special price for you to purchase these additional educational profiles for your educational profile, but we have special instructor pricing to purchase these materials that are not available to members or non-members. And again, you know, the course rosters for these would all be submitted using the PHTA instructor portal. So again, if you're interested in offering any of these 4 additional courses, I would urge you to let me know, and I would love to sit and talk with you and see what you think would work best for you. And now the fun begins. I believe, Justin, you may have received some questions or comments in the chat while we've been presenting, so I will kind of let you lead with that.
Absolutely.
Hey,
thank you, Natalie. Oh,
hey,
Zach,
Justin,
go ahead.
real quick, buddy. Hey, so I got my list of notes here, and I skipped over probably one of the most important things on this list, and that is to just make mention that Wayne, I'm going to mess up your last name. Sorry, Wayne Ivasich is our new vice chair of the council. Everybody knows Wayne, I'm sure, from either his time at Taylor Technologies or in going through instructor school, big name in the industry. But anyway, he's taken on the role of vice chair of the advisory council, and just want to congratulate him and make sure everybody's aware of that. So thank you, Wayne, if you are on the call.
Thank you, Zach. Yeah, that was a big move. Hello, everybody. Justin Ivy here under incognito is Natalie Hood presenting the GoToWebinar here. It's wonderful to hear from all of you. I am moderating the questions that you guys ask through the GoToWebinar question thing. I have some that are preloaded and I'm ready to read off, but if you have questions that you'd like me to read off to the group for them to answer, please at this time type them in, or while we're discussing, type them in. I'd like to start with a question that came in first from Rudy. Rudy wanted to know about applying credit for the photos that they apply. Will people submitting photos, if they're used in the CPO presentation, be given credit?
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't see why we would not give them credit. Are you referring to in the actual slide deck with your name down below, or?
I am guessing yes, in the slides, if we put a picture that Rudy, the pool man Stankiewicz, sends to us, will we be able to write photo credit Rudy Stankiewicz on the bottom?
So it's not something that we have done with previous photos that have been submitted. Normally, I mean, it's something that we can certainly talk about, but right now, all of the photos that are currently in the slides are that were taken by previous NSPF, APSP, PHTA, or PHTA instructors, or those in the field that have submitted them. So as of right now, we do not have that.
Wonderful. Seems like that one's a wonderful one for further discussion. Something that would definitely push us to give more photo credits is if a lot of you sent in a lot of really good photos, and we'd really like that. As a small team, when I was on the advisory council, we had photos that we had taken, but we would be happy to get other photos and put them in. Jeannie, did you have something to say about this?
No. I was just going to say, I know we did a call for photos, so I think that's a fair point to add photo credit in the future.
Wonderful. Next up on the list, Scott Hurst asked us if we've checked into the cost of shipping CPO books. I know that cost went up a little bit. I'll say a decent amount with the new distribution that we've been doing. Do we have any communication with that warehouse about how they ship items? Like UPS happens to be much more expensive than FedEx on the level that we see, but do we have any pull with the people sending out our books on which shipping option they're choosing?
So right now we are, the warehouse that we do use, they are using UPS. Previously with NSPF, we used FedEx, and I believe APSP also used FedEx and UPS. So I can say that we are exploring other options and additional warehouses to support different couriers, because I do know in some areas UPS might they'll leave it at the end of the driveway, or kind of throw it around, or same vice versa with FedEx. So we are looking at other options to better support those couriers, and working with the warehouse continuously to keep shipping costs down.
Thank you, Natalie. Jeff Kopp, he's gone offline, but he wanted to make a comment. Really feels the need that instructors need to be able to change mistakes that they find in their uploaded Excel student roster forms or certification submissions. I agree that we all make errors, and if we're teaching large classes, sometimes there are errors that are found where we misspelled somebody's email, or hey, somebody wrote their email wrong and contacts you after. In a lot of database systems like the ones we're utilizing, it's difficult to allow access to every instructor to go in and make those changes. What I can say is that we have a very attentive team specifically to you instructors out in Colorado that have absolutely no problem with a nice message, a nice email, a nice phone call to make sure that they go in before things are sent out, or even after things are sent out, to make those changes. Just wanted to read that to you guys. I see he logged off already, but wanted to bring that up. Next question we have is from Stephanie Kiley. I will, at this point, just say I apologize if I do mess up anybody's name. She wanted to know if the perfect bound books are the permanent binding for the CPO handbook going forward. Natalie, I will defer to you on this one.
So again, right now we have so far received quite a bit of really good feedback on the perfect bound. It's not to say that the spiral bound is still not an option that we are exploring. I believe last time we looked, the spiral bound was still fairly back ordered. I do know, I know in speaking to a few instructors, they had said they had gone down to Staples and gotten their, the handbook done spiral bound for fairly cheap. Which yes, they do that, but when you're printing thousands, 20 to 30,000 handbooks, getting the same color spiral bound with length, it can be a little testy. And so we're not saying that spiral is going away. It's just right now for this next order, perfect bound is what we did choose, because again, it was what was available based on our demands and needs.
Wonderful. I'd like to circle back. Scott gave us a little bit of a loophole that he's realized. Scott says you can save $14 by ordering books in packages of 10 instead of 20 per box. That is a wonderful loophole that you just shared with our warehouse distribution. And if anybody is able to order in boxes of 10 for their small classes, that might be something you'd like to take. Lisa Wegner would like to know what our collective thoughts are on lowering the CPO certificate length to 3 years. She'd like to say she's in favor of it. And I think this turns into a question that maybe we poll a lot of instructors on. I know with the CPO program being accepted in so many areas as a 5-year certification program, one of the hurdles for us would be approaching each and every one of those states that's adopted this program, each and every one of those counties that have adopted this program as part of their local codes and regulations, to also approve that change with them and not have to start over with everything we have going on. That's good for us. But absolutely, we would, I'm sure that probably turns into a poll question at some time. Lisa, I appreciate for you bringing that to our attention.
And I was just going to add, I want to say, and Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe we did, or maybe Jeannie, I want to say that we did pull this at one point. I don't think it was last year, but it might have been the year before. And I think based on the feedback that we got, it was, the idea was to stay with 5 years, again, based on approval. But Jeannie or Zach, do I have mom brain?
Yeah, I recall the poll, and I recall a whole lot of discussion about it. And I don't recall the nitty-gritty details, but I recall the outcome, which was to keep it 5. So just because that was what people, decided a couple years ago, doesn't mean it has to be that way forever. So that's certainly something the council can take up. And if you have a strong opinion, please send that in, and happy to revisit that.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that there is one state, the state of Maryland, that does only accept the CPO as 3 years right now. Rudy brought that up in the comments as well, but that is something that the PHTA is in starting conversations with Maryland about, since we do hold that program and our certificates say 5 years. Michael, and here's the first name I will mess up, Picciulo. I'm just pronouncing every vowel in there. I apologize, Michael. Michael wanted to give us some compliments. Great job on the new handbook and PowerPoint. I really appreciate that. It was sandwiched between something that he'd like to mention, though. Every time he gets the new PowerPoints, he does rearrange the order of the slides to coincide with how the topics appear in the handbook. And he adds the page numbers on each slide for easy reference by students. He's not sure if other instructors are going to it, but he wanted to share what he was doing, and he had one thought. He was wondering if when corrections are made to the slides, can those corrections also be listed in some sort of PDF or document so that those of us that might do this can make the corrections to the slides and not have to download all of the chapters and then correct it. Michael, after this huge overhaul we just did of the book and then doing the PowerPoints to match, I do think that the edits going forward will be smaller. And I do think that is something that the team that does these updates could release when we do update the PowerPoint slides for download online, just making a simple list that says most recent PowerPoint updates and points to the slide numbers that were updated. As we go through these last few updating pictures, this and that, after they were released and everybody coming together, give it a couple weeks. And I think that absolutely is something that we will keep in mind and strive to update you guys better as we update them. So you're right, you don't need to download them each time and re-add those wonderful things that you add as a wonderful instructor, to use that word 3 times. I have a bunch of messages on.
Justin, real quick, man. A lot of validity to that. Super good point. Natalie tracks those changes. I don't know if they're in an Excel spreadsheet or what, but I bet you Natalie can provide that. And in fact, she has provided that, I think, to some people before. So yeah, totally don't want people to re-download and have to search high and low and redo their stuff. So that's an excellent suggestion. And I think that Natalie can provide that and has that information. Yeah, Natalie?
Yes, and so actually, that's a great point. I imagine having to download those slides constantly would be obnoxious. So what I will do, I would recommend downloading the new slide decks if you haven't already. The font has now been updated to Arial. We've made changes to pictures, but what I will do in March is in the instructor newsletter. I don't think I'll have all of that ready when the meeting notes go out for this meeting, but I will make sure to send out recent changes from when the original PowerPoints were first released, as well as larger changes that would certainly impact when you're going through the slides yourself. And again, kind of speaking about the slide decks and the arrangement of, compared to the book, Wayne and Zach have been really great about giving us feedback and rearranging all of that. And so I will, on my part, do better when I'm communicating in my rather large instructor newsletters to make sure I also update you on that. And it might be just something as simple as, adding an additional document to your instructor resources page of, recent updates. So I will, we'll do our best to get that to you guys in March.
And big shout out to Wayne on his organization of all those things that are coming back to us. He's logging them, putting them in an Excel spreadsheet so they can be evaluated, et cetera. So good job, Wayne. Appreciate that.
I don't think Wayne is here, but Wayne will be watching this at some point, as all instructors need to watch the town hall meetings and the updates. And I have a lot of messages in here that say, congrats, Wayne. I just wanted to put that out there. We started with one from Eileen Lubeck, and then a bunch of other came in. We're real happy with Wayne moving on from Taylor, but still staying involved in our industry. He's been a voice that a lot of us have heard through webinars with Taylor talking about water testing, and has had a hand in this CPO instructor school, as well as just the CPO program in general for, I don't want to say the number of decades, but a good amount of time. Bill Lemon would like to ask if the tests from last year are still usable with this year's books and the pool operator primer course. The answer is absolutely yes. The one big change that we made is that Langolier saturation index questions. So if you have tests that still use the old LSI calculations, that's really the only thing that doesn't mesh up with the new books and would be tough to teach to. Natalie, if people still, Wayne is here. Wayne, congratulations. Everybody's real happy for you. But Natalie, if people do have tests with the old Langolier saturation index questions, I think there might have been only one that the answer was changed based on the math. Is there some sort of program to send those back and get tests that realign with the LSI?
And so I'll probably let Zach answer the LSI question. However, I will say if you do have an abundance of exams that are outdated, you can most certainly reach out to Ashley and we can provide you new exams. And I also want to say if you see any errors in the exams or the handbooks, send me or Zach or Wayne a message. You can certainly post it on a forum, but sometimes if there's an error on something and it may have already been fixed, I don't want to give the wrong impression. And so I know some of you may have received Spanish exams where the bubbles where students fill in are kind of off. Those were immediately corrected and so sent out. And so again, if you do have older exams and you're like, I want the new exams, you are more than welcome to reach out to us. We will certainly replace those because again, we want you and your students to have the most updated materials. But Zach, do you want to, I don't believe that there was really any issue with the old exams in regards to the math and the LSI. What was there?
Oh, you're stretching my brain a little bit here. So,
I want to say no. I want to say that one test question, even with the new LSI calculation, stayed within those TDS parameters that kept that answer the same. I would invite you, if you think you have one that's old, to just do that question on the side and make sure. I'm pretty sure it was like a positive 0.2 was the answer.
Yeah, so I agree with that. The exams never went bad, quote unquote. There were some questions, I don't know, 5 or 6 questions that people just really didn't like. We changed those. We fixed some of the wording to make things more consistent. Yeah, I think the old, we don't have any versions of the exam out there that present incorrect answers and would confuse a student based on an incorrect answer.
Grant Holmquist would like to confirm with us that the old tests still work with the new math. I appreciate that, Grant.
That said, highly recommend everybody get the new exam. They're just more straightforward. They're cleaner. The questions are asked a little bit better, some of them. And so, yeah, convert over. If you have old ones, I would send those in and get new ones. I think they're better for the student. They cover information kind of more succinctly and ask it more clearly and concisely, I think. And just a reminder, the exam keys are the same. So those did not change. We kept all the answers the exact same. So those are still good on both versions of the exam.
Thank you, everybody. Dale Svill, will you note on the instructor materials when the PowerPoints are updated so we can make sure we have the most up-to-date slides? I will answer that one and say yes. When we post the new slides on the website, we will do our best to implement as quickly as possible, just putting the date that they were updated at the end. Just so it has it in a reading form. For example, if we updated it today, we might put February 22nd, 2023. As long as you save them on your computer with the date that you've downloaded that document that PowerPoint from, you will be able to know if you have the most current download or not. Natalie, any comments on that?
Yes. So what I was going to say with that is anytime I have updated instructor materials added to the website, I do ask marketing to add a updated date, just so you know, if you go back there and you're like, hey, do I have the most updated instructor manual? You can check that date. I will say with the PowerPoints, I want to give a buffer right now because we are receiving some feedback. And again, as Zach had said, we're pulling our hair out because you know, the council looked over it, I looked over it, we had a few other people look over it for grammatical errors or just suggestions. I will say probably and expect in the next month or so, those updated dates probably will not show. But again, I will do my best to upload an Excel file of some sort or keep that open line of communication with you all to say, hey, the following updates were done on these days. Because again, these were just released and we want to make sure that we're providing you the best information and updated content. And so if, you know, if I received a photo today and I received a photo tomorrow, it'd be a lot of updating the dates. And because it's all essentially in a Dropbox, it might be a little bit funky. So in the next month or so, give me a little bit of, give some leeway, but I will make sure to do a better job of letting you know when those slides are better updated.
Thank you. Michael P. is back asking another question. He would like to confirm that passing CPO students get the certificates emailed to them from the PHTA.
Yes. So the simplest way I can talk about this is that once you, whether or not you teach a course virtually or in person, once you pay for your student's certification, a link will be sent to them. Now, this link is already prepared in Prometric, but it does not officially become active until you have paid for your student certifications. Once you've paid for a certification, your student will receive an email to say, congratulations, please click here to download your digital certificates and some other information, which I can certainly provide to this group if you would like to see what those emails look like, which might be appropriate to add to your instructor manual. But they are coming from PHTA. They do tend to fall in those pesky junk or spam folders. Excuse me. And so, you know, again, if your students don't see their email, you can most certainly send Ashley and the team a note to say, hey, they didn't get an email, and they can push that out again. And I just kind of, if I can, I wanted to go back to some of the recent changes. I in the PowerPoint deck and even in the book, I received a lot of questions, not just me, but also Zach and the council, regarding the positive and negative signs with the, I believe it was the saturation, it might be the LSI. I should hit myself on the hand for this.
Those
but
are
Zach,
both the same thing. You're good, Natalie. LSI,
okay.
language saturation index.
Okay, see, I'm learning. But Zach, do you kind of want to talk about that a little bit? Because I've been kind of pushing those to you, and I just kind of wanted to get it clear, just in case anyone had any questions and they felt uncomfortable speaking up.
Yeah, you know, a year ago or 2 years ago when we were redoing the book, the new standards came out, and one of our colleague instructors provided those to us. And this is going way back and way more detail than anybody wants, but in the publication where they're published, all those factors for TDS were published as negative, and somehow one time those negative numbers got into a print of the book, and it just like spread like wildfire across PowerPoint slides and everything. So anyway, the council's noticed all that. We've gotten all that corrected. Just for clarification, the way the PHTA teaches it is that you add your first four factors together, and then you subtract a positive TDS factor to give you your final answer. So you're subtracting a positive number, you're not adding a negative number, you're not subtracting a negative number, you're subtracting a positive number. And anyway, I think in the most recent version of the slides, that ugly thing reared its head again, and somehow those got sucked in again, and it listed all the saturation index factors for TDS as negative numbers. So I'm pretty sure that's been fixed immediately the second we saw that email. And hopefully it's not an issue anymore, but I'd like to never ever see a negative sign again in front of a TDS factor in my life, because we've fought with that so much, but they keep somehow sneaking back in there. So that's all I know about that. Does that answer your question, Natalie?
It does, thank you.
Wonderful. So Michael, just to finish up on you over there, you guys get the final grade report on your portal. You do not need to send that link to your students. You can utilize that link if they reach out to you as an instructor and say, hey, I never got my certificate, or, oh, where is my certificate? And everything will come through to them, but the PHTA is sending out that email, and it seems that in March or at some point there are physical things being sent as well. Mary O'Donoghue has a question about some primer course students who have a completion certificate, but it only shows as them being enrolled in the course. Mary, I invite you to email me directly with that. I'm working heavily in the LMS system and making the changes that you all have been bringing up on all of the exam questions and the answers not being right or being wrong. I'll be sure that my email is sent out in a final wrap up or whatever it is that Natalie will send out after this. If you could show me one of those students, I would love to discover what the error was in our system for those.
And Justin, if I can jump in, just some anecdotal observations I've seen. I've had this happen a couple times too. And I think in 100% of the cases, somehow that student either had a second account with PHTA and they logged in under that account, or they possibly called and changed their email address and their profile, and that didn't push to your portal screen. And so in all cases, the certificate of completion has been valid. It was just due to some kind of an email mismatch in the system. And I usually just call the office or email the office and they sort it out for me really quick.
Wonderful, wonderful. Natalie, quick question about the Spanish CPO books from Eileen. They're currently still being shipped as the spiral bound. Are those going to perfect bound? They're thicker and harder to ship?
Yes, so, excuse me, cold. The Spanish handbooks are, I imagine we'll soon be sending out in the perfect bound. Again, I believe we still have a few hundred left in the Spanish, and typically the Spanish handbooks tend to go quicker in the US off season, if you will. And so one thing to kind of keep in mind too, as you receive these new handbooks, the binding will also now have the name of the handbook, so I would say probably in the next few months, Eileen, you'll start to see those perfect bound handbooks for the Spanish as well as that spine with the information of what the book is. So people put it in their bookshelf or, stacking their books, what have you, they'll be able to quickly grab that book.
Wonderful, wonderful, thank you. I'm reading a lot of suggestions to the council about some different things on the book, about some other things. I just want everybody to know I'm not going to read all of those comments, but they are noted, they are recorded, so we can bring them up in the next advisory council call. Some suggestions that you have. If you feel that you want that to be held more directly, you can email them to us as well. I appreciate you putting them here in the questions, but just for sake of time, we're going to roll through on the questions. I'm interested in this one, so I'm definitely going to ask this one. Russ Hopner is wondering if the CPO handbook cover will be changed, that he thinks with so many updates to the book and the re-release of it, sometimes it's difficult when we're sorting through them as instructors to know which one's the new one and which one's not. I know they do have a little version number in the bottom right now, but do we have any plans on changing the CPO handbook cover?
So I can share with you that the CPO, a couple of years ago when we APSP and NSPF first merged, we went out and did professional photos, and you're actually seeing Tyler, who used to work with PHTA, on the photo, and probably in many of our photos. And so I certainly think that is something to explore. But again, we could look into it with the council. But as of right now, we don't have any plans to change the cover. But again, we are always accepting feedback and comments on what you would like to see.
Rudy put in there, he'd love a design the cover contest. I have a nice picture of a hamster floating in an inner tube in a pool. I think I might throw into that. I do have a wonderful question from Ricardo Galeno. Ricardo's wondering if the PHTA has any plans to expand CPO with international education, as he I didn't fact check, but there's more than 50 million tourism travelers to places like Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean. Have we had people reach out to the PHTA about instructing in those areas of the world?
So if I may, I'm going to go ahead and take this one. So yes, we have received a lot of interest with international expansion, and we working with Fontaine Piper. I think you guys all know him. He and I have been working to again expand internationally, and we recently did have a request for 20 to 30 different candidates in numerous international areas to become instructors. In case this group doesn't know, we recently certified 2 instructors in Malaysia, an additional instructor in Hong Kong, and 1 in China. So we are expanding, and again, we're always looking at with our materials expansion and how to support as well. And so yes, we are looking at that expansion.
Thank you, Natalie. I appreciate it. Lisa Wegner had another one regarding the pool operator primer course. Are they able to finish the pool operator primer course even though they do not complete quizzes or activities with an acceptable score? The answer is no. They should not be able to. They do need to pass the knowledge quiz at the end of each of the sections. If we do understand that there is a way to get around that, please send that along to me so I make sure that is corrected. Michael P., I did want to bring that up. Will the 3rd pool volume sketch in the PowerPoint be changed in future handbooks? I am thinking you are bringing up that 3-level depth pool that has angles all over the place that I do believe we changed on the slides. Quickly touching on that, I don't think we were actively thinking about changing the book sketch. While we still want students to be able to understand how to calculate the gallonage of a pool that's a little more complex than we might get into during class, we wanted to have a PowerPoint representation that is easier to work through and a better flow to follow. But again, I will note that to see if the council would consider making that change to match the book with the PowerPoint. Will the Home Pool Essentials course or video be updated anytime in the future? That question comes from Timothy DeLucia.
So I could say that the Home Pool Essentials course was actually just recently updated and is also now available. And so if you do feel that there are additional updates or review that needs to happen, I would encourage you to please reach out to Justin and myself.
Thank you. I believe we're close to the end of the questions. It looks like I have 2 more good questions in here. Let me just find the one I was on. I apologize as this thing scrolls as new questions come in. Dr. Kathleen Henderson was wondering if there's any progress or conversations that have been made with QR codes for scanning in identifications.
I guess my question would be for, are you referring to the certification? If someone's certified with a PHTA education, or are you referring to a conference?
Yeah, and Dr. Kathleen Henderson, I 100% recommend sending us an email about that. I know that was something that was brought up a couple of years ago, I think, to verify a license and do some things, but absolutely would love to hear your thoughts on that and start a conversation to see what we're going there. Rudy had the last question come in, and it's something that I think the council, might bring into consideration, so I wanted to bring it up. The way of calculating a pool's gallons by means of the chemical addition and change, that it can be and has been found to be more accurate in calculating the gallons of a body of water, including what's living in the filter and all of the piping underground. It is a different way to teach it. I know some instructors do teach it on their own. Whether that will be put into the text or not, I can't be sure, but Rudy, I would 100% invite you to send those recommendations to the council or to Natalie to see if that's something that fits in that pool gallonage calculation area. Again, those of you who did not get your questions asked here, it's not that I'm ignoring you. I will respond. Natalie will respond. We do have your comments that came in to pass along to everybody. We are very happy everybody was here. We had over 100 attendees pretty much stay through this 1 hour conversation. And that's what we really like these to be. We like to hear from you. We really appreciate those of you that attend. We pay attention to those of you that attend. We hope to see you all on the next one. And I will pass it off to Natalie to give you your final sign off.
Thank you, Justin, and thank you for helping us run this webinar. Yes, so, I mean, again, I just want to say thank you all for taking the time out of your evening or early morning to spend time with us and talk through these changes and updates that we've made. And, you know, we have Justin on the team, and I'm very excited about that, to have an SME on board. I think Zach and others would agree. And, you know, again, as you, excuse me, as you go through the updated materials and the portal and the changes to the Instructor website, please let us know what you think. And again, we're just so grateful to work with such a wonderful group of industry experts. And I will make sure to send the recorded meeting, if not end of this week on Friday. I will make sure to send it Monday at the latest, because I also want to make sure we can support those that speak different languages to allow time for translation as well as video updating purposes. And so again, I just want to thank all of you for being here with us this evening. And unless Jeannie and Zach would like to say something else, I wish you all have a wonderful evening with your family and friends. And again, we look forward to the next town hall meeting with you. All right, guys, have a good evening.